Hi, I'm Fred Volkwine, Professor Emeritus at Penn State, and I am one of the faculty members that has been involved for the last 8 or 9 years, in the development of our program for training institutional researchers. We have a core of courses that we have developed that reflect the really big ticket activities that colleges and universities and their decision makers need to engage in, and particularly the types of analytical work that they have to do in order to manage the institution well. Well, one of the most important features of colleges and universities, and one of the most important needs these days, is the need to manage enrollments, to predict admissions, to attract students, to engage in the care and feeding of students while they're on campus, but more particularly to determine which ones, after they are enrolled, are going to graduate successfully and which ones are not, which ones are going to decide that they had made a bad first choice and transfer to another institution. These are all things that give college and university managers headaches, because it is very expensive to replace a newly recruited student. So the enrollment management course is all about trying to make enrollments more predictable. And in this course, we break the content up into 4 major areas. The first 5 weeks or so of the course, we spend talking about the tools that institutional researchers need and the processes, particularly the planning processes that one needs to engage in order to carry out successful enrollment management activity. For example, one of the exercises is to study the enrollment management process at a particular college or university of the student's choice, and then share that with the class. And we have discussion groups that discuss the pros and cons of each week's posting by the students. So the students work together collaboratively in the course to share information about not only their own institution, but the other institutions that they are familiar with, or institutions that they have chosen to study while taking the course. And part of this is the planning process itself and getting a handle on that. Another part of the first 5 weeks of the course has to do with tools and technology, introducing students to the skills that they need to have in order to successfully work with admissions offices and provost offices and finance and business staff in order to successfully predict and provide for the enrollments that are attracted to the institution. And so, for example, it's almost impossible to think about a successful enrollment manager who doesn't have adequate statistical skills, because a lot of it is about the numbers. So we have a week or two in which we introduce students to some of the most important statistical tools that one needs to have in order to carry out a successful enrollment management enterprise. Engaging in discriminant analysis, knowing how to do a logistic regression model in order to predict, for example, admissions yield on the one hand, or graduation rates on the other hand. So that's the first part of the course. The second, third, and fourth parts of the course all deal with 3 different stages of enrollment management. Stage 1 is recruiting, admitting, and providing financial aid for students and getting them in the door. The second stage has to do with the first year experience and with introducing and orienting students to the college or university and its programs. And then the third stage has to do with persistence and retention and successful graduation. So those 3 stages, we spend in the course about 3 weeks on each stage, and each of those 3 stages has a separate discussion group where the students once again share information and knowledge not only about their own institution, but also about other institutions that they wish to study and that they choose to study as a part of taking the course. So that also during these this last 2/3 of the course, or 3/4 of the course, the students work on developing an enrollment management plan. And indeed, the final product in the course is a final plan or a final paper or a proposal that the students may want to use if they wish to at their own institution. Or they may wish to make it just between themselves and me, the instructor, in the course. But the goal of the course is to have a final product at the end, and that final product is a complete enrollment plan. But stage one of enrollment management is admitting students and enrolling them and giving them financial aid, and then, most importantly, predicting which ones are going to come and which ones are not. And that's gotten to be a fine art at colleges and universities. The second stage is orienting students and integrating them into the campus culture. And we spend a few weeks on that as well. And then the final stage is all the things having to do with persistence, retention, graduation. Throughout the course and throughout these stages of enrollment management, we expose students in the class to existing outcomes models in higher education. And there are a number of models, whether it's the Pascarella model, the Terenzini model, or the Volkwine model. There's a lot of different models that are used across all of our courses. Now, in this particular course, the outcome that we're interested in is persistence and graduation, so that while the elements of a model may be similar in the foundations course and in the assessment course and in the student affairs course, in the enrollment management course, what's different is that the elements of the model are the same, but what's different is the outcome. In this case, persistence and graduation. Let me talk about two features of the course that may be attractive to. Let me start again. I'd like to discuss two features of the course that prior students who have taken the course have been found especially interesting and valuable to learn about. One is that enrollment management, turns out, is different on different campuses, and it often reflects the campus culture. So you will have some campuses where enrollment management is a bunch of executive orders from the president and provost, and everybody falls into line and carries them out. Very executive, very top-down. Other campuses have such decentralized and even fragmented enrollment management processes where it's dispersed and the responsibility among 4 or 5 different committees that it never really comes together and coalesces and feels like something holistic and uniform. And other campuses are somewhere in between those two extremes. And one of the valuable things that happens in the course is for students to see what works differently at different campuses. Some cases, the fragmented, decentralized model really works well for some reason for a particular campus. Other places, they really need that executive top-down, hands-on approach. So, different strokes for different folks. That's one thing I wanted to mention as a special feature about the course. The other special feature about the course is the databases that we have developed. It's almost impossible for me to think of properly training students to carry out enrollment management analysis unless we get them down and dirty in trying to predict things like admissions yield from the admissions process, or enrollment yield from the admissions process on the one hand, and projected enrollments, persistence, retention, and graduation on the other hand for existing students. The first step is to decide who should be admitted based on their enrollment profile and their admissions statistics profile, test scores, background information, high school records, and the like. So that's step one. Step two then is, of the students who were admitted, trying to predict A, which ones should or are going to get financial aid, and B, which ones are actually going are going to show up next fall. And so you look at such variables as in-state versus out-of-state, highly talented versus middle of the pack. You look at all these different variables and then try and develop statistical models to predict who is and who is not going to come. And so that's one of the things that is a real eye-opening analytical experience for many students in the course. The other database is trying to, as I said earlier, you take a group of existing students and given their profiles, their majors, their age, race, sex, their grade point averages and the like, trying to predict who's going to continue and persist to graduation and who's not. And that's an absolutely valuable exercise for colleges and universities to engage in. And it's one of the skills that students acquire during their weeks of taking this course.